Welcome to the Private Property Podcast. My name is Kay, your host for tonight. Now, some of you might recognize me from the previous episodes. This place surely feels like home, and those green hearts from you, loyal viewers, has brought me back. And while we're at it, please send some more, won't you? So, on tonight's episode, we'll be talking about navigating the property market as a young investor, especially in these trying times. And joining us in studio today, I'm giving him the side eye because I am so excited, is Daniel Kazadi. Yay! Daniel is also the head of the youth department at the SA Property Investors Network and is well equipped, I hope you heard that right, well equipped to provide us with answers regarding this topic. So whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just looking at some expert advice, tonight will be no different. So keep tuning in every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. for tips, insights, and expert advice on burning topics related to property. Because this podcast is brought to you by Private Property. And remember, you can find your new home on privateproperty.co.za. I'm sure I can steal your time for about a minute or two for some story time. So 6 years ago, when I joined the property industry with no experience, limited information, no resources, making it this far was only but a dream. Today I am the founder and the CEO of K Property Consultants. However, I do wish I knew then what I know now. But the good news is your case is different because of our guest this evening, Mr. Daniel.
Hey Kay, how's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm good. It's good to have you in studio. Thank you so much for coming through.
Geez, thank you so much for having me. Always fun being on this podcast. Eh?
You look good. And as you walked in, I could literally just see that you are a young property investor because you just filled.
You're too kind.
You just filled this room with a strong presence. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I think let's just delve straight into it, right?
Okay.
I've spoken to a lot of young people that have different perceptions of property. And before we even, delve deeper into what we're going to talk about today, I think the one question that everyone just asks themselves is about, property investments in a sense. So what would you describe as a term for property investment?
So in my opinion, maybe slightly controversial. I would view property investment as a property you are buying without the purpose of living in it. Yes, I do understand certain people buy properties they live in. It's their primary residence and they see it as an investment. I don't, unless it is a strategy that you are going towards. But property investment is a property you are buying with the sole purpose to add value to yourself, to your family, and to your portfolio if you are looking towards investments. Huh?
Portfolio, that's such a big term. For someone that doesn't know much about investment, what would you mean about, a portfolio, building a portfolio?
Yeah, so building a portfolio is, I think a portfolio would be the best way of putting it is a group of many things in layman's term. So if you are looking to build a portfolio, it is multiple properties in essence,
Multiple properties under a group, under your name, obviously, or is it better when it's in, I don't know if you get where I'm coming from, but is it a few properties that's under your name, or is it solely when it's a group of people coming together, forming a group of companies and have those portfolios under those properties under that portfolio?
Yeah, so good question. So in South Africa, there's 3 forms of owning properties. You can do it in your personal name.
Okay.
And there's pros and cons to everything. Just remember that and make sure you talk to your team, your legal consultants, your tax practitioners. There's in your personal name. And then there's a company The tax brackets are completely different. The forms of ownership are completely different. If you are buying in the company, it is not your property, it's the company's property. And then there's a trust. In terms of asset protection, it's probably the best out of all three. So if you are looking to build a property portfolio, you can do it under all three of these things. But there are things that play a part in it. If you're buying your personal name, you're capped off by your affordability. In a company, banks don't finance new companies unless you're a director and you take in personal surety. And a trust is a bit different, but you can build a portfolio on all three, but each of them have pros and cons that you just need to be aware of. Huh?
Okay, fantastic. And speaking of investments, I remember speaking at an event and I saw someone talk about status versus location. Right? Status being buying your property in your lavish places. I'm sure every young person wants that, versus location, making the relevant, proper investment. So status versus location. And let's talk about also the economic climate conditions currently. Would it be sensible for someone to go into property, firstly? And secondly, status versus location. How would you advise someone to get into the market? Would you advise a person to get a property in a located area and build properties, rooms? That's how they do it now, student accommodations. Or how does one just navigate the property space?
Yeah, good question. So I think that question is broken down into two. The first part of your question being the economical climax that we found ourselves in, and if it is right for young people to enter the property industry. So it's quite interesting. So there's a lot of things that play a part in what we find ourselves. I think the biggest is the interest hikes that we've been experiencing as a sector. And in my opinion, it is normal. So depending on when you bought a property, when you enter the property industry, if you entered at the time, the Reserve Banks, when we were in lockdown and the Reserve Banks lowered the interest rates, the reason they did that is to allow for the circulation of money for people to afford to buy houses. And that brought a lot of new players in the industry. So people that could not afford a R1 million bond are now taking a R1 million bond. But they could only afford it then when the interest rate was as low as 7%. And speaking to experts and different team members around myself, they were never going to remain that low as 7%. So right now, where we're going is to normal. And yes, a lot of people are feeling the pinch and the squeeze, unfortunately, because they did enter when they were as low as 7%. So it is still very good to enter the property industry. There's a lot of safety measures you need in place. And my advice to you is, if you are entering the property industry, there are certain things you need to be aware of. The economical climax, with the inflation rising, with the interest rates going up, the load shedding issues that we face. If you are entering the property industry, what you want to do is make sure you're not just thinking of short-term gains today. What you can do to make sure that you're making money today, but also the future and how it all plays a part in it. So that's definitely my advice. It's still very good, but make sure you are taking the relevant steps to ensure that you are not going to get bitten. So if the interest rates are 11% today, make sure you're running your numbers on what does my investment look like if they climb to 13%. Worst case scenario. Am I still going to
30%?
make 13?
13.
30%.
I really almost fell off this chair.
Yeah, like, what are we doing? Let's stop investing. 13%, I would say that. And your second question with state and location.
Status versus location.
Status versus location.
How does one make an informed decision with, buying property, status versus location?
No, definitely. I think it is a valid question. And it brings me back to one property I bought. When starting out in this industry, I saw an area that is not the best area, right? But in my head, I'm like thinking, geez, I can have the room here. I can do this. I can do that. I can build on here. And I ended up buying the property. And 6 years later, I'm looking to offload it, and not one offer has come in.
Oh, no.
Not one offer. So like I overcapitalized. The area went worse, so it got worse, and there's like a bar or a tavern next door now, and it's just awful. So when you're looking at property, that's why I said it's not a short-term thing. You do not approach property as, hey, I can buy this, I can build 30 rooms or whatever. You need to think about, I know it's a buzzword now, but sustainability. How are you impacting the area, and how's the area playing a part back to it?
Yes.
It's not just about your profits of today, and property is a long-term asset. A lot of people call property passive and all that, which is quite...
They give it different terms, man.
Which is quite true. However, you need to make sure that you are thinking ahead of time, and you're thinking of an exit strategy when entering any sort of investments. What if it does not go out? Can I sell up and leave? Have I bought competitively? But even with location, hey, I've got a lot of clients and students that have bought in the right locations, but they cash flow negatively. So they buy properties where they're having to chip in because the rent does not cover all of the expenses. So even with that, you can go wrong. My advice to you is make sure before you're buying a property, you check the regen plans. What are some of the things that have been approved by council for that area? Are there new bars coming? Is there a church being built? What is the demographics? What's the market value? And just understand the future of the area as well.
Okay. Speaking of location, it's buzzing. There's just this buzz about Stockville's. And I don't know if people are just doing Stockville so they can just gather and have lamb chops. I don't know. But jokes aside, people are gathering now and having these Stockvilles, and they're saying, yay, township investment. Township investment. Oh my goodness, I just need a hospital where we can build 5-6 rooms. So with that regard, hey, what are some of the things that people really need to be careful of when investing in property? Because people are going out and they're taking out loans to do all of these things, and some of them are also taking out their savings, and saying, no, I think it's better if we do this cash, right? So I think my first question in that aspect would be, is it cash or bond that would be the right approach to a group of people coming together and investing in property?
Geez, I actually love Stockvilles. It's something very close to my heart. Some of my friends and people I look up to in this industry have just weaponized it, where Stockvilles were viewed as a vehicle for people to buy groceries and do different things. And now there's been a big shift, like you place it, on buying properties with these Stockvilles. So I think with everything, we in an industry, what people need to understand is we in one of the best, one of the most expensive industries and asset classes in one regard. However, you need to also know that a mistake in this asset class could also take you out of the industry because of how big it is. So with everything, I would not recommend you do anything without educating yourself on and understanding what can go wrong. Because a lot of people tell me, geez, Daniel, you can never go wrong with property. It's you'll always make it, but it's definitely not true.
If I can just chip in with educating yourself. A lot of people also get that advice, like you need to research. How does one approach the research in property? Is it radio research? Is it attending events? Is it reading articles? What would be the right approach to know exactly how to make an informed decision in researching of a property?
So with regards to research, I'd say, or educating yourself, there's so many things out there, like private property podcasts with the different guests. Quick plug, huh?
Yes.
Quick plug.
That's a proper plug.
Proper plug, right? Social media, there's a lot of information out there, but there's also specialized information. So within SAPIN, we've got specialized coaches if you want to go in the development, student accommodation, Airbnb sector. And no matter where you go, there's so many other players. Make sure that they practice what they preach, that they're investors as well. They've made mistakes, so you do not have to make the mistakes yourself. But there's also tertiary level of education, providing property education. I know VITS have an amazing program. UCT as well. So if you are looking for a career in property, I'd say definitely go down that route. If you are looking to build a back room, if you are looking to develop, if you are looking for Airbnb, make sure that you understand what could go wrong, mitigate as many of the risks, and you should be good, I'd say.
Okay. So I'm sure there's 2, 3, 4, 10 20 young people
Yeah.
that are sitting and saying, I really want to invest in property. But look, I don't have a car. I don't have a laptop.
Yeah.
I don't have the right resources to get into this market, but I really want to hop into this market. What would you advise young people? What are some of the financial resources that are available and investors that are available to assist such people?
Yeah, definitely. I think there is a few, depending on what situation you are as a young individual. And that's why I love the work I do, having to work with a lot of youngsters and see them get success. If you are a young professional, first time getting a job and you are climbing up the corporate ladder, I'd say taking care of your finances would be step number one. Make sure you are saving X amount of rands away.
Sure.
Get yourself credit ready. So just maybe open a sports scenes account, buy something for 8 rand and pay it off in 6 months. And just
But we know that the 8 rand will end up being 80 rand, or people will get more and more and more
but just be disciplined with it.
Exactly, I think, where I was getting at.
Just be as disciplined as possible, because you need to understand why you're doing that. You're not just doing it for the sake of it, because when you want to go to the bank and approach them for a loan, they need to see some credit history, right? They need to see that you're disciplined with your spending, and if you take a loan, you're able to pay it back, no matter how big or small it is. So I think get yourself credit worthy. As soon as you have taken loans and you are paying it back, and then you can go and apply for a home loan. I think ABSA has an amazing product for young individuals entering, where they give you up to 108%, don't quote me on that, of the purchase price.
I want to coach you on that.
So I think that...
For my sake.
For your sake, yeah. So I think, that's a good way to start for young professionals, and just educate yourself with the investment. But for youths out there that maybe are not earning an income, there's a lot of avenues you can go.
Okay.
When I started out, I researched, and please do your research. It's called the Alienation of Land Act.
Alienation of Land Act.
Yeah, I think number 68 of 1981. Pardon, I'm like a
selective
geek. A selective geek.
Okay. You're going in there.
Yeah, I'm going in now.
Yes,
Yeah. So what that act allows you to do, it's called, in basic terms, it's the installment sale method. So it's a rent to buy. Rent to buy. So I did a lot of that when I started out. And the good thing about it, you do not need affordability. You do not need the credit history. You do not need to buy a property. What most people do not understand is, yes, you might qualify for a loan from the bank to buy a property for R1 million. The bank can tell you, I'll give you R1 million. However, there's transfer costs, transfer duties. There's so many other costs that comes with it. Bond registration costs. On R1 million property, you need to put out 80,000 rand.
Sure.
To even if the bank gives you 100%, you need 80,000 rand. For an installment sale method, what you need is a Section 20 contract, which the attorneys draft. And that will cost you about 8,000 rand. And you also, depending if it is above R1 million, there's transfer duty payable in 6 months. But in essence, what it means is, you know how you can buy a car via installments? Can do the exact same for property. So that is a lot of the opportunities we're seeing with the team coming up now, where a lot of people that bought a property that could barely afford it when the interest rates were at 7%, now that the interest rates are climbing rapidly, they just can't afford it. So what this act allows you to do is you can take over the bond. So there's an endorsement registered against the title deed. The owner moves out. It's like your property, but you're servicing their bond. It's not a new bond. You're just taking over this bond. So now you have to pay the bond on a monthly basis, rates and taxes, levies, but you need to do your research. Like if all of my expenses are 15,000 rand a month, can I rent out this property for 20,000 rand? And that's a good way to get started, I'd say, for young individuals.
So Daniel, I had a case where a lady invested in property. And sold property. So she sold her property and had someone that obviously bought the property from her. However, the lawyers, the attorneys that were responsible for the transfer duties really did not do a good job, because that person actually just disappeared.
Jeez.
Upon all the costs being paid off and literally every bad thing that you could think of going wrong went wrong. So what are some of the, instances that, not even instances, but I think the right term would be, what are some of the institutions that someone can approach when they have invested in property or sold their property and literally have nothing to show for it? Because we had someone that literally just, sold them lies.
Jeez.
What are some of the institutions that someone can say, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
I sold my property. This attorney is nowhere to be found. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so it's actually quite heartbreaking, and how often this is happening is really awful in the industry, hey? And it's so
I've
common.
noticed that,
So there's the beautiful thing about the industry is it's a legislated, and there's so many rules around all of these. So if it is the conveyances that played a part in your friend, there is governing bodies they can approach. The conveyancing governing body, I'm not too sure, but I can maybe check in for you, hey? But if there is, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of cases where tenants, funnily enough, I had an instance where we had to intervene where some guy is renting his property to a tenant.
Yeah.
And this tenant, what they do is they sublet without the owner's consent.
Sure.
And they just fill the place with 30 individuals. That's one form of it. And other forms of it where people are impersonating agents. So let's say you're an agent, you list a property. I just go, I steal all the images of that you've posted at 1,000 rand less. And the PPRA would be amazing for that. So they govern all property practitioners that play part in the industry. So I'd say maybe go to the PPRA and just explain it to them, and they could lead you in the right direction.
My concern though is that not just about this instance, hey, but with people that have come to me to ask for help. It's the time frame.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I really just wish that more like these institutions would be really like hands on, because we give people such like terms, no, go to this, go to that, but when they get there, they don't reply to emails, they don't do anything, and I think the frustration is, how does one now escalate it?
Yeah, I totally understand, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah,
I would say that, like, especially within the PPRA, the past year has been quite up and down for them, but under new leadership, they are playing a part in just making sure they are getting things done. But with the attorneys, hey, you can go for licenses. I would say understand the governing bodies. Just try your best to ensure you understand what governs them, the rules they have to comply by. But delivery of a lot of these things is quite a concern for a lot of people, and I totally understand the frustrations.
Okay, so what would your one, and I even have my hand raised, one advice that you could give to a young person, that is entering the property market?
One piece of advice.
One. The best one.
Yeah.
The best one. Like, think of the best coffee.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Definitely not cappuccino, huh?
Definitely not Drip coffee, the government coffee. Definitely not the government coffee. No.
Okay. Yeah. One piece of advice.
One piece of advice.
So, something my coach taught me is, and it might be controversial here, there's no such thing as a buyer's or seller's market.
Ooh, we need another episode for this one.
It is controversial. I know a lot of people don't agree. So,
I don't agree as well.
So
definitely.
What my mentor taught me is, if you're going to play a part in this industry, there's no such thing as a buyer or seller's market. What you need to be able to do is look past markets and understand a deal. Does this deal make financial sense? Yes or no? No matter what economical climate it is, that people could tell you out there, this is not the right time to buy property.
Of course.
It's only sellers that are making it, right? However, what you need to do is, if you're able to look past it and buy the right properties for the right price, it definitely works. So my advice to you is, yes, study markets, understand, is it going up, is it going down? However, if you want to make it in this industry, you need to be able to look past all of that and analyze things, not just with a short-term view, but see long-term. So that's my one piece of advice.
I really want to delve deeper into your one piece of advice.
So what I meant by my title is, everyone could tell you this is a buyer's market.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a buyer's market. It's the
Yes.
best time to buy
Yes.
properties. However, if you just buy for the sake of just buying, how do you know that the property market will go up? Because
Sure.
capital
Yeah.
capital what appreciation is never guaranteed, right? You can't tell the future.
Capital appreciation is never guaranteed.
Yeah, so you can't buy a property
Okay.
and tell me that it will go up 30% in value, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of factors that play a part. It's really hard to pinpoint it. Yes, there are formulas out there to do it. However, what I meant by that is, even in a seller's market where they say it's the best time to sell,
Yes.
buyers are not.
Yeah,
If you buy right, if a property value is 1.4 million rand,
Sure.
but you buy it for R1 million, for
Yeah.
instance, or you buy it for 900,000 rand, what you've done is you've bought right. As well as doing that, if you run the numbers to understand the returns that you're going to get on that on a monthly basis, does it cover all your bonds and all your
Yes.
expenses?
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. If you buy right, I've met people in seller's market or buyer's market, that have
Yeah.
bought awful investments and they are bankrupt. So that's what I meant, I'd say.
I think we need a panel discussion for this one. Do we agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Does that
we
mean
must.
you're going to come back?
No, please, if you guys are willing to have me, I'll be here.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. I really had a very interesting, informative conversation with you. Please do come back.
Oh, please have me back. Thank you so much for having me. All the best for the next episodes to you and the team.
And that's it from us. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. And don't forget to share your thoughts on today's show using the hashtag #FindYourNewHome on privateproperty.co.za and hashtag the Private Property Podcast on all social media platforms. And remember, you can find your new home on privateproperty.co.za. Good night.